do this year, the Queen coming on live from MUSC and things like that in downtown Chucktown, South Kakalaki, yeah, Charleston, South Carolina. Now back March 20th, 1969, this year been the day when 113-day strike been going on with the hospital workers and things like that. The Gullah Geechee one, the black one, the African American one, they've been involved in this year marching through this year city and things like that. So this year day we did here for put a marker here in honor of them what been marched through here and things like that. So 100 children, we gonna let you tune in for see the program for this year day dedication, and we're so glad that when Hunter the day with me, Queen Quet, head on the body of the Gullah Geechee Nation, you know that Hunter going to know that this year the what going on. So come on children, march inside with me and see what been going on with that hospital worker strike back again.
It's hard, and when it's successful, it needs to be recognized so that we can be inspired to change, resolve other issues in the community that require the commitment and perseverance and risk-taking that the strike that we're going to recognize today required. So I'm going to turn the podium back over to Aurora, but again, I want to thank you on behalf of the Preservation Society for being here today and to be able to recognize the strike for its significance to our community. So thank you.
And now I would like to read a little bio, of course, of Mrs. Mary Moultrie, the woman of the hour. I'm sure we all know lots about her, so bear with me. Miss Mary Moultrie is a Charleston native and has been an advocate for workers' rights since she led a 113-day hospital strike in 1969. After graduating from Burke High School in 1960, Mrs. Mary Moultrie went to Goldwater Memorial Hospital in New York to become a licensed practical nurse. In 1967, she returned to Charleston and was hired at NUSC only as a nurse's assistant, since her LPN was not accepted. To give you an idea of how things were at the time of the strike, news of the Orangeburg Massacre at South Carolina State swept the nation, and 2 months later, Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated. Racial tension, as you can imagine, was at an all-time high. The stage was set for 1969, the year that would change Mrs. Moultrie's life forever. She believed she had to do whatever she could to relieve the racial and economic injustices, not just for herself, but for all African American workers at the medical college. Led by Moultrie, some 400 black, low-wage workers, including nurses' aides, dietary workers, and housekeepers, attempted to form a union at the hospital, citing they were fed up with what they called unequal pay compared to that of their white counterparts. Despite the trials and tribulations Mrs. Moultrie and other civil rights leaders faced, the strike was eventually resolved with an increase in wages and other measures taken to make things fair. Although strikers failed to secure their most important demand, union recognition, the hospital did agree to provide modest raises and to abide by a new grievance procedure. Mrs. Moultrie has received the Harvey Gantt Triumph Award, which is given to those persons who have made great strides for civil rights and humanity. If you guys could please join me in welcoming Mrs. Moultrie to the stage.
Good evening. It takes me a little while to get started, but I'm on. It is certainly an honor to have been invited here today to witness such a historical event. Many thanks to the Historical Preservation Society of Charleston and the Medical University Hospital, and to all who work toward making this day a reality. On March 20th, 1969, we came out on strike against then the Medical College Hospital, and a few days later, we were joined by the county hospital. You know, changes have been made because the names are even different now. There was by no means a random act. We tried for more than a year to meet with management to air our grievances. We were protesting better working conditions, the right to be treated with dignity, respect, job description, representation, and better wages. To put it in the words of Rosetta Simmons, the right to be treated as human beings. We were all black, predominantly women, and many of us were heads of household. We had some women who had as many as 10 children. We marched, we picketed, and many of us did whatever we needed to do in order to make the march a success. We had nightly rallies, we boycotted businesses. Everybody who came out on strike did not return to work because some people felt that they needed to work and got jobs elsewhere. But the majority of us were out there for the cause. The strike was finally over after 113 days. All of you have read somewhere, you know the specifics of the strike and lots of things that happened, lots of things that didn't happen, you were told it happened. But anyway, I'm not going to go into all of that. We did not get a bona fide contract. We got a memorandum of agreement. The state of South Carolina maintains that they cannot bargain collectively with unions. This policy is a hindrance for city and state workers who deserve to be treated fairly, with equal opportunity and better jobs and representation on the job. Without a union contract, I remained $11.99. It was easy for the hospital to return to business as usual. This is an important commemoration, and I am appreciative. However, no marker or monument can tell the entire story. As a matter of fact, I can't even tell the whole story. There are things that should have been added and some that could have been omitted. Although I am included in this program today, there are many individuals and organizations that stood with us in the beginning and throughout our struggle. They should not be forgotten. Sadly, many of us paid a high price for the sacrifices that we made. My first thought is the hundreds of strikers themselves. Many who've gone home to be with the Lord that didn't even get a chance to have anybody say thank you and not to even witness an occasion such as this. I'm reminded of Mr. Bill Saunders, who was with us from the beginning, Mrs. Rosetta Simmons, as I mentioned before, who led the workers from Charleston County Hospital, 86-year-old Mrs. Naomi White, who never gave up the struggle, Isaiah Bennett, Otis Robinson, and many, many others. There were organizations like 1199 who were here before SCLC, who came to Charleston and to our aid prior to the strike. Mr. Henry Nicholas, who was the vice president of 1199 at that time and in charge of the union here, moved to Charleston and remained here throughout the strike and months later. Mr. Nicholas, who thought it not robbery to be here with us today, is sitting right here. The Ministerial Alliance, Bishop Z.L. Brady, and many, many others. So you can see that any effort at commemoration is imperfect. The only way to do this historical market justice is to recognize that the workers in the state of South Carolina, here at the Medical University Hospital, need union representation. We need, in order for this market to get justice, is to recognize that the struggle for equality, fairness, and democracy is continuous. And to say this, the struggle continues. Thank you.
Powerful words. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. James H. Tolley, Jr. Dr. James Tolley is an assistant professor in the Department of Emergency Medicine. He's a 1985 graduate of MUSC. Prior to medical school, he completed a master's degree in teaching and taught science from 1977 until 1980 in the Charleston County School District at Wando High School. After medical school, he completed his internship and residency in family medicine at the Medical College of Georgia. In 1988, he was asked to join the emergency medicine faculty at MCG as an assistant professor of surgery. He held this position for the next year. In 1989, he returned to his native Charleston and began his work at Charleston Memorial Hospital. In 1993, he left Charleston Memorial Hospital to work full-time at MUSC as director of after-hour coverage at the Access Center, the predecessor of the current emergency department. Dr. Tolley served as director of the emergency department of Charleston Memorial Hospital from 1996 until it closed in 2008. Dr. Tolley is board certified in family medicine and a fellow of the American Academy of Family Physicians. He has held numerous positions on committees within the Medical College and Medical Community of Charleston. Among these positions, Dr. Tolley has served as president of the Charleston County Medical Society, served on its executive committee, and co-chaired the Disaster and Emergency Care Committee. He has served for a number of years on the College of Medicine's Admissions Committee and is a member of the Faculty Alumni Liaison Committee. Dr. Tolley has taken keen interest in patient education, minority health promotion, urgent acute medical care, and community health care. He is also interested in promoting healthcare careers among minority students and preserving the history of African American healthcare in Charleston. Please join me in welcoming Dr. James Tolley.
I didn't want to stand behind this, but I guess I can. All right. Thank you. I've only been given about 5 to 7 minutes to talk. And being, as you know, as you heard, I'm a former high school teacher. And it's sort of hard to restrict myself to 5 to 7 minutes about a topic. But I'll do the best I can real quick. As you heard, I grew up here in Charleston, and I lived on Cannon Street from the time I was born to 1967 when we went to 7th grade. And after 7th grade, during 7th grade, we moved up to near the Citadel. And at that time, I was thinking very strongly about becoming one of 3 things: a doctor or a teacher, and there was a third choice. But I didn't think about being in health professions. My mom was a school teacher. That's why I was thinking about becoming a teacher. But I didn't think about going into health professions until the summer of 1964, when I stepped on a rusty nail and got taken to the old Charleston Memorial Hospital Emergency Department. And as you heard, Charleston Memorial Hospital was also affected by this 1969 hospital strike. And I got my foot washed. A needle was shot in my butt for tetanus, and they sent me on my way. And I felt that, ever since then, I'll try to get back at medicine. So, and then had no idea I'd end up being the ED director for several years after that. 1969 was a time of trial and tribulations for a lot of folks. The 60s, the 70s, well, early 60s, late 60s. Again, 1969, we saw the hospital strike. By 1969, the school I attended, or was supposed to attend, had folded into Bishop England. I went to the Black Catholic school, and Immaculate Conception High School was folded into Bishop England High School. And that was the first full year of that. So I was already determined that I was going to be either a physician or something in healthcare. And by that time, we heard about the strike, and I know it's hard to believe that young teenagers could talk meanly, rudely, despairingly about folks. But these people were talking about folks that I lived in my neighborhood or I knew, and talked about the medical school that I was thinking maybe that would be the medical school I might go to once things get better. Because at that time, most black physicians were trained at Howard, Meharry, schools in Michigan, and elsewhere. So it was hard at Bishop England at that time to think about what was going on. The summer of 1969, I lied about my age and ended up working on a Coca-Cola truck. And I was witness to the National Guardsmen standing around on their mobile trucks and with their bayonets and guns. I was talking to some of the folks in the Charleston community about that. They said the National Guardsmen were young people. They were the ones to be afraid of because they were really scared. It is the state troopers with their ride batons that were more not to be afraid of because they were more in control of themselves. And again, in the background shows an old hospital and some of the same pictures. 1969 also was the time when Dr. James Colbert arrived at MUSC and became the Vice President for Clinical Affairs and Provost. He won the respect of a lot of the employees because he was a driving force that helped settle the hospital strike behind the scene. In my research in the archives, came upon a letter among that was written by one of the employees thanking Dr. Colbert for his involvement and his willingness to see the other side. I want to recognize the fact that two of his children are here today. Jake Colbert and Elizabeth Colbert Bush have joined us for this commemoration and the celebration of the marker. This reminds me, I know there's some other folks here from those days. You know, I was a little young teenager. I got to watch the strike. My brother and I got to see my father jump in and march for a little while. A lot of us, there's some folks here who actually marched or stood next and watched the marchers. Anyone else have been here around that time? Well, I want to bring that up because all of us have our own stories. And the only way that we can do better as a community, as a nation, is to talk to each other, respect each other, understand each other's diversity, understand each other's culture, but we've got to communicate with each other. I encourage you later on to go ahead and talk to some of these folks who were here and understand what happened, what their stories are. I hear stories about people being spit on. I hear stories about how things were mean. I hear stories how some folks refuse to talk to other folks. In order for us to get a better situation here in our country, at our institutions, is to communicate. One other person I wanted to talk about was this guy. He's here too. he was he was in his mid-30s, Dr. McCurdy, who met with the workers with Governor McNear when the president at that time, Dr. McCord, were not. So what was happening was, as I reviewed some of the archives, most of the employees at the medical university or medical college at the time, but 1969 is when state law passed that medical college became the medical university of South Carolina. But at the medical college, at the hospital, according to Dr. McCord's note, there were 800 employees, non-professional employees. Other records revealed there may be about 1,500 non-professional employees. Around the time Ms. Moultrie was there, this was what the employees in nursing were, the numbers were. So total number of RNs, there were 9 African American Negro employees and about 206 whites. Things have drastically changed since that time. As you heard earlier, one of the results of the hospital strike was compliance with the Equal Opportunity Employment portion of Act and compliance with HEW policy, continuing to engage in outreach to help the community and also to bring in qualified folks and get young people interested in medicine and healthcare. One of the programs we have is through the Ernest E. Just Scientific Symposium, honoring cell biologist and Charlestonian Ernest E. Just. During Black History Month, we have this program. We bring students from historically black colleges and universities to come and see our campus. And this also affects our pipeline of students coming in and helping. And again, in '69, we had no black medical faculty. And today, we make up 6%. So we're working on our pipeline. We're striving to do better. This is a group shot of a good number of the students that were here last year. Underrepresented minority students, Dr. Pisano and Dr. Deborah Dees. Some of these folks are going to be our faculty. Some of these will be our doctors throughout the state. One of these folks is my daughter, so it's really nice. Let's go back here. Which one? If I can get this pointer to work. The pointer's not working. She's up here, right up here. I can't get the pointer to work. Anyway. I would like to thank you all for coming. I'd like to thank the Preservation Society. I'd like to thank Ms. Moultrie for all the work she's done to help spark the changes that we've had over the years. I'd like to thank all of you who were around here in 1969. And I'd like to thank you all for letting us serve here at Medical University, our community.
All remain seated. We're going to have Ms. Moultrie go outside and unveil the marker, and we will see it via a live feed. It's the first time we've done this way, so it's going to be very, very exciting.